what are you going to do? Things happen sometimes. But that did remind me of something that I've talked about before. It was a study that was done by scientists. They were checking out the brain and metabolism and the different alpha and beta and delta and gamma waves that were going on inside people's minds. And they decided that a study was being done. You've heard this before, I know, of some monks who were used to meditating and praying in the silence. And they wired them up and watched their brains. And then they got some Manhattan or Madison Avenue types that were all type A people. They did the same thing to them, and they taught them meditation. And they watched these elevated, spiky graphs in their brains calm down and calm down and calm down. And they saw the same thing occurring in the monks. And the monks just zoom, could go right there. And the others, it took them a long time, but they finally got their waves down. And then part of the experiment was a sudden loud noise like that to jar them, just like what we got, okay? What happened with the monks is that they spiked way high and then immediately went right back down to where they used to be. The other types, the type A Westerners, spiked high and then stayed there and couldn't bring themselves back down. So it occurs that's really, I'm kind of surprised that would happen to us this morning. But one of the nice things about that is it ties right in with the talk that I'm It really does. It ties in because the talk that I'm doing is called One Piece at a Time. But rather than it being P-I-E-C-E, like a small portion, it's P-E-A-C-E. And I know that the two sound the same when we say them, one piece at a time. Now, I know that many of you are aware of the idea of one day at a time, one moment at a time, 1 hour at a time, whatever it takes to get yourself into a place where you are copacetic, that's a good old jazz word, with the world once again, where everything is evened out for you again, and you are at peace, you are okay. If it's necessary that we do it in increments like that, just as the Madison Avenue types had to be taught to lower it and lower their ability to be calm and peaceful. And then something comes along in our lives that spikes that for us again, even if it requires that we go back and review and do the lessons again to lower that down. It's necessary to do it. One piece at a time, whatever it requires. But the peace that we gain from it, the P-E-A-C-E that we gain from it, is crucial. Crucial not only to ourselves, but to the world around us. Now, I know I have experienced enough revolutions of the earth around the sun to know, not just think or believe, but to know that things are always going to come up. Something is going to come along that will disturb the calm peace of our soul. We can learn to get there by using prayer and meditation and silence, be able to calm ourselves, to get those alpha and delta and gamma waves and so forth to the point that they are down and slow and that we are feeling good about things, and our heart rate goes down, our blood pressure goes down, and all of that. But just as in the daily word, something can occur. They use the example in the daily word of you're in a hurry, you need to go someplace, and suddenly you can't find your car keys. Or your glasses. How many of you have done this? Where's my glasses? Does anybody know where my glasses are? Have you seen my or your sunglasses especially, and looking for them. Or the car keys are in your hand, but you're searching pockets and you don't realize that they're right there the whole time. Unawareness. Inability to be fully present oftentimes it brings discord to the calm peace of our soul. Something happens in our lives that brings this. Now I also know from my own experience that there have been times when it seemed appearance-wise, it seemed that there was no coming back from a particular incident in our lives. There are people now, because of November the 8th and the outcome of that, who feel like a terrible tragedy has occurred that cannot be overcome. That it's just a downhill slide from here, and as I said before, and others are saying, hot dog, it's up, up and away now. Things are finally getting back to the way they should be in the United States of America. Well, regardless of how you may view this, the fact is that for both sides, there has been occurrences of disturbance within the calm peace of their soul. This goes on outside of ourselves, into the politic of the world, goes out past our nation, into the world that we see around us. We see it happening in Syria. We see it happening in Angola. We see it happening in so many different parts of the world. A situation caused by a disturbance which has created violence in the world. Contention, ideas, beliefs that have been held so deeply for so long that they've become traditions. The ideas of honor killings, all of these terrible things that we look upon in our society but seem so ingrained and normal in the society that holds these ideas. The two clash together, and eventually one tries to overcome the other rather than understand and bring the other one in. Something I've learned also from observing animals. If an animal senses that you are afraid of it, it will respond to that feeling that it's picking up from you. We had a situation not too long ago where a woman was inadvertently attacked by a bear in Frederick, Maryland. She heard a dog barking. She took her dog and went outside and started walking towards a car, and somehow it's supposed, no one knows for sure, that the woman got between a mother bear and her cubs. And the bear did what bears do. It rushed forward to protect her babies and attacked this woman. Well, gosh, how would you feel in a situation like that? The animal is doing what animals do. A mother is doing what a mother does in protecting her young. So that's just a natural instinct on that one's part. The woman at first, she said, tried to fight back. Well, that just enraged the bear even more. Instead, she finally just curled up into a fetal position and showed no resistance whatsoever. And the bear finally went away. Now, she was maimed and hurt and is probably still in the hospital as I speak. But still, she's recovering. And she did it by surrendering to the idea of being peaceful and showing this bear that she was no threat whatsoever. We don't do that as human beings often. Usually when something rears up in front of us like that, we immediately do one of two things, right? Fight or flight. That's the two things we do. We try to run away from the problem, or we try to contend with the problem, whatever it might be. There came one before us that we call our way shower, who, when we look back at it from our perspective, is just saying things that it seems like everybody knows. But we have to remember that 2,000 years ago, over 2,000 years ago, this wasn't the way things were. He told his people, you have heard an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I tell you, and he gives a different example of how revenge is not required for true peace to come to each one of us. These were brand new ideas to people. They'd never heard them. They certainly had never experienced them. And it seemed out of place with the culture they lived in. And yet here was one who was trying to teach them a different way of looking at peace. An idea that peace doesn't simply mean the lack of contention. One side has won and is dominant over the other, and now everything's at peace. That's the way peace had always been viewed. But he was talking about a peace within that can't be taken away regardless of outer circumstances. It's a new way of looking at things. No one had ever beforehand used this idea in this particular part of the world that he lived in. It's not new to us now, 2,000 years later. But what is new is the idea that people are picking up on this and realizing that it comes to us one person at a time. We can't legislate it. We can't dictate it. We can't bring it forth by all gathering together and singing hymns and praise and so forth, and then walking out the door and saying, okay, well, back in my car and back to my normal life, I've had my religion for the week. It can't work that way. It has to be a deep change within. Now that's really difficult for us to find a deep change within when everything in the outer is saying contradictory messages to us. Everything in the outer is saying us and them, me and you, always an other. As long as we're viewing things that way, as long as we're seeing things in this duality existence of life, we will always find a reason to be in contention. You've heard me say this so many times, you're probably tired of hearing me say it, but if you get to the place where God is, nothing's going on. Why? Because there's nothing to contend with. It's a full peace that is an understanding and an idea that we just don't grasp as humans very often. So it's easy for us at this time of peace, this season of peace that we are in. It's very easy for us to speak the words and to kind of get a sugar-coated frosting of what the season of peace is all about, rather than going deeper within and searching for all the places within our consciousness where this does not exist, where we're still holding on to old ideas, where we're still holding on to old resentments, where we're still holding on to places and times and people that are unforgivable to us. We're still holding those. We're still holding on to blank unawareness in our minds of things that we have done, maybe inadvertently or unconsciously, things that we have done which was a slight or hurt to someone else. We may have been aware of it, and it's just so there, and we don't care. Or it may be something that we were totally unaware of, and suddenly it comes to our consciousness, floats to the top, and we say to ourselves, oh, I wasn't very nice that day. I didn't really say things the way I really meant to say them. That's why I think it's very important for us to go back each day and reflect upon what has happened before we sleep, to go back and reflect on what has happened during the day, and see if there's any person, place, or thing that we have not treated with pure love, unconditional pure love. Boy, what a piece of homework that is, huh? To go within and say, okay, here's what happened. First I got up, and then this happened, and then the phone rang, and I responded this way, and then I got on. Wait a minute. Let's go back to the response that I had. Here was the conversation, this is the way I handled it, and this is what I was thinking and feeling while it occurred. Was that my highest self thinking and feeling that way? Or was it the one who always sees an other? And was it a contentious contest with the other person or the other idea? Resolving that, moving on. Always be in a position to be able to say, now my slate is clean, I can sleep peacefully. Peace is more than just the absence of conflict. Peace is a sense within us that we are aware of and in full completion with anything and everything around us, where we feel totally connected. Totally connected. Is that just some pipe dream that someone's come up with 2,000 years ago, or is it possible? Well, I think it's possible. I don't think it's possible for us all the time because we still have that human element within us. But it is possible for us to get to the place where we are aware enough that we recognize this missing of the mark and that we carry it forward and say, today is another day. Today is a new day in which I am a brand new person with a greater full awareness, more full awareness, until it finally gets to the place where we, one peaceful moment at a time, have gained peace within. You know, I've known people who were in my presence, saw my pain and saw my conflict, and were peaceful with me. And that experience helped change me. Helped change me. I'm sure you've all done that. You've all been to a place where you were sort of erratic and the other person was just there, fully grounded, peaceful, exuding love to you, exuding understanding, exuding compassion to you. You could see it on their face. You could see it in their eyes. You could feel it soul to soul. And when it happened, it helped you gain and calm yourself again. Gain your peace. Gain an awareness. And then maybe that evening or the next day or immediately upon passing from that person, you said to yourself, consciously or unconsciously, that was good. I needed that. That's changed me. I see it differently now. I'm willing, much more willing than I was a moment ago. I'm no longer in conflict. I no longer have that contention within me. I no longer have that sense of needing to be right all the time. I'd rather be happy and content and peaceful. So here we are at this season of peace that we call it. The peaceful season of the Christ Mass. The gathering, and a Christ Mass is a gathering together, that's what a Mass is, it's a holy group of people, focusing on the Christ. In unity, this is not some guy born 2,000 years ago, and he was the only one. He was one, but so are we. He fully attained it as far as we can understand, or enough that he could demonstrate it for us and for those of his contemporaries at the time. They saw the Christhood in him. But it's within us, and we are aspiring toward that. Hopefully, we're all aspiring toward that. We are the ambassador of this type of peace. One person at a time, one thought at a time, one feeling at a time within ourselves. Once we gain a better awareness and a handle on that within ourselves, then we are able to put it out there for other people to experience and feel. It may be just like those dogs and those bears and those animals, that they only experience it on some level that has no communication of it. But they get it, and we get it. We get it from others, and we give it to others. Wouldn't it be grand? Wouldn't it be grand if this just continued on every day and every moment, all the time. An awareness of and a gathering of people who wanted to express this Christness. Wouldn't that be grand? Not just during a little portion of the end of December, but all the time. The desire not to be so right and so righteous, but a desire to be at peace and totally immersed in the acceptance of all beings. I'm for that. I strive more for that in my own life. I hope you do too. Will you help me? Will you help me? Will you help me be more of who I know I truly am? I'll do everything I can to help you be